Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Let's hear it for the chair of the Kapiti Coast Chamber of Commerce as we make very welcome now Jacinda Thorn. Good morning, Jacinda.
Hey, good morning to you and all your listeners, and Merry Christmas.
Oh, and to you, and to you. And it's been a very active year for the Chamber, hasn't it?
It has been an incredibly busy year, and as we were just discussing before, we're all a voluntary organisation. So it really comes down to our board members to get our issues and our lobbying and all of the presence in the news up and running. And we've also had a changeover with our board this year, and we've had some business owners come on board. So it's been a really good year, and we're ending it in a perfect space for 2020.
Excellent. Lovely to hear. Yes, I really do admire the Chamber. Completely voluntary, very busy people, and I'm amazed that you get through what you do. Now, you just mentioned the board. You've got 2 new board members, I believe.
We have. So we've had a couple of people retire. So one of those is Brett Percival, who has stepped down, and we've also had Ian, who is he was treasurer. So Ian from AGA Fenwick Accountants, he's also stepped down, but he's still helping the board with all of our accounts and things. But in turn, we've also brought on board Monique Leith, who owns Leith Consulting, based in Parapara Umu. She started the business back in January, and in just under a year has grown from being a sole contractor to 6 staff. So she's specialised in the environmental and resource planning area. So we're really pleased to have her expertise on board, especially as Kapiti is going through such a phenomenal phase of growth. And we've also got Asher Wilson-Goldman come on board. Now, he will be familiar to you and your listeners as he ran for council this year.
Yes.
He was unsuccessful in being elected, but we loved what he stood for and how he operates and what he can bring to the board. So we've asked him to come on and help us as well. So we've got 2 fantastic new faces which you'll see more of next year.
Excellent. Well done. And it's great to be able to attract that degree of talent. You mentioned advocacy. You put out a press release last year and it says in big bold print, 4 lanes to Levin must go ahead.
Go ahead.
Why?
It must. It must. Hey, look, we are supporting Tim Costley, who's the national candidate for Otaki. He's put out a petition which has gained hundreds and hundreds of signatures calling for the fully funded 4 lanes to Levin. In October, the NZTA said they may not have the funding for the partial 2-lane option that was put forward for even another 10 years. And if we don't make a move now and put, a stake in the ground and start building that road, our region will miss out on economic growth. The road is a little bit unpredictable at the best of times. It can take like an accident or, a weather event and it's closed. And so the Kapiti Horowhenua region has all this potential for growth with Transmission Gully opening and the next phase of the expressway opening. But if it stops north of Otaki, we're going to miss out on so much more.
I must say that I've got great sympathy for this because at one stage I was driving that road every day of my life, twice a day, and I got to name every pothole. I got to know them intimately. However, I think we've got to ask a few questions about this. We've had NZTA on this program, and they tell us that the numbers simply don't exist and will not exist to support 4 lanes between Otaki and Levin. And as a taxpayer, that's something I've got to take attention of. So,
well, interesting you say that because I used to work in the Beehive in the earlier part of my career. And Treasury are notorious for being very conservative in their estimates. And so if there's a sort of a spectrum of, top level of population growth and the lowest level, and I bet you they're looking at that lowest level of population growth and saying that the business case doesn't stack up.
So you're saying that would be a Treasury figure rather than an NZTA figure, are you?
Yeah, I suspect there's a little bit of information that all the government departments consult in the Treasury. Treasury sit at the core of government decision making, and especially because there's a lot of money that will go into it. I'm waiting to see if the government, they announced last week another round of funding for infrastructure projects. I think it's around $12 billion worth. And I'd love to see the Otaki to Levin Road be announced as part of that package.
And I'm all for increasing the pressure on government in that regard. But let's just follow those through. Why should we have 4 lanes to Levin and not further? I mean, should it go up to Bulls? Should it go to Taupo? Should it go to Hamilton? Where does this stop?
Well, the original plan was to have it through to north of Bulls, which which makes sense because it's a corridor into the central capital city. And at the moment, when you're travelling north, it can get very congested. So the original proposal was to support it as far north as that, and look, the Chamber would support that. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done on roading in the Wellington region.
Yeah.
I mean, we aren't the only ones who've missed out.
Indeed. So, okay, that's part of the advocacy that you're going through at the moment, and it's certainly very interesting and very timely, because I'm certain I talked to NZTA about this some months ago, and I know that they did not factor in the unexpected growth that has occurred in the Hora Whenua, which is quite spectacular, and I'm sure that will affect the figurings.
Well, you only have to look at the way the population is growing north. So Otaki is now the prices are rising, and now people are moving to live into further north, and businesses are opening in the area as well. And I just don't feel they've got a boots on the ground view of what's happening.
Okay. Now, look, staying with roading, it's been recently announced there's a bit of a delay on Transmission Gully. Do you think this has got any implications for business on the Kapiti coast?
Well, you only have to drive past Ewadou quite regularly to see it's a massive project, and there's a lot of work going on, and it's complex. So the delay wasn't so much of a surprise, but we'd love to see it finished in that November 2020 space. Any longer, and it will have some implications. I think from another point of view, Kapiti's got a lot going on in the economic development space at the moment.
Yes.
We've got a refresh happening through council. We've got the independent review happening with the council, currently being carried out by Martin Jenkins. And so there's a lot of work happening behind the scenes of how do we gear Kapiti up to be able to respond to it. So in the big scheme, 6 months isn't a lot. It might buy us a little bit more time to get ready to respond to the growth that's going to hit our way. But anything longer than that, I think, it would become a little bit long in terms of us making the most of the opportunities.
Have we got any idea how much the expressway that's currently been built, how much that has meant in dollar terms to the Kapiti coast?
Well, the first phase, when that opened around 18 months ago, there was a study done especially around economic benefits in that Kapiti landing space, so the first main exit as you come off.
Yes.
And I think from memory, don't quote me, but I think it was around a 19% increase in spending in that immediate vicinity.
Okay. So this is an opportunity with roading projects on either side of the Kapiti coast, and therefore increased communication, and therefore you would assume access to increased markets. One of the issues we have locally, at least this is my perception, you may or may not agree, is we don't seem to be creating enough jobs that pay higher than the minimum wage. There's a lot of sort of big box retail jobs, you know what I'm talking about, and fast food, etc. But we don't seem to be producing the jobs that produce enough money to, frankly, support living here, because the housing costs are going through the roof.
Well, that's one of our key objectives. We want to create more high-paying jobs in Kapiti. We have thousands of people leave every day to go to Wellington to jobs that pay substantially more than what they would get out here.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a two-prong approach. So the council estimates there's around 800 jobs every year that turn over in the district. And that is everything from retail through to sort of, jobs that are high corporate end at the council or other national offices here. And so their issue is how do we fill those jobs? So we've also got that, but we also want to encourage economic growth out here. So companies want to come and establish and pay people higher wages and those jobs that aren't currently accessible here.
Yeah. One of the
I agree with you. We have to do more.
We have to do more, and it's not just one body that has to do it. I'll just ask you one very curly question to finish with, Lo. The mantra for the KCDC is open for business. Do you think it is?
Oh, that's a really curly question. The board met with the review panel last week. So their council's currently going through an independent review.
Yes.
And one of their questions they asked was around the open for business and what the council's doing well and what it could do better on. And look, there are a lot of good people within the council who do their best and try and, help Kapiti grow, and we have the open for business policy. But the general feeling amongst our members is that there's still a lot of work to be done.
Indeed. Yes, I was part of that interview process as well. I was quite impressed with the depth of questions, and also they seem to be quite well-informed questions. So I'm looking forward to the report, and I believe that's going to be published sometime in February. So we could discuss that at some stage as well. Jacinda, thank you so much for joining us. I really do enjoy our conversations, and we wish you and the Chamber all the very best for the festive season.
Happy holidays.
And to you. There we are. That is Jacinda Thorn.
106.3 Beach FM.